Hi, this is Jim,
And Ralph.
and we welcome you to Psychology Takeaway, the podcast where we look at new things in psychology or old things that might be relevant today and try to make them relevant to you.
And to us.
Hi, Ralph. How
Hi,
are you
Jim.
today?
I'm doing well today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Sounds like I have a bit of a frog in my throat. Hey, but
Well,
it's
could be worse. Could be an Englishman with his boots on.
No, it could be what Alex has. Alex isn't with us this week.
No, because he has strep throat.
Yeah, and in his stead, we have his partner in technology, Jacob. Want to stick your head in and say hello?
1 second here. Technical, wrong one. How's it going?
There you are.
Got to slide in a little bit, but welcome, or I'm glad to be a part of the podcast. I was in earlier, but we're back again. So
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Alex
with video this time.
right.
Yep. Alex and Jacob have been trying to educate Ralph and I in this whole magic realm of video casting.
And we are learning, but like many elders, we learn more slowly than the alpha generation.
Yeah.
It's a learning process for us too. So we're right there with you.
Okay. Well, we're going to finish. Well, I don't know if we're going to finish or not, Ralph. We're going to get into part 2 of raising capable kids.
Yeah, and now many of our listeners may not have kids of their own. They may have nieces or nephews. They may, in fact, be younger people, preteens or teens. And one of the things that anything we say about raising capable kids, a kid, him or herself, could self-raise. Okay.
Well, we'll talk about that one. Yeah, I suppose. Now, last week we talked about Coco Melon. Remember that?
Yes, I
And
do.
Those little images that go boom, 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 boom. Well, one of our viewers saw what we were talking about and put together a 9-second photo montage going boom, 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 boom. We don't have it here. We'll put it up next time just so you can see it. And, hey, we welcome participation from any of our viewers.
Yeah, if
like today.
if you have a clip you want to think worthy that you want to get it put up by us, send it to us.
Yeah.
If it bears on psychology in any way, we will probably use it.
We can make it bear on psychology, Ralph.
We can.
Actually, today we're going to ask our listeners and viewers to send in some of the weirdest things that their kids, the neighbors across the street, people that they know, weirdest ways that they solved problems. Okay? So
Okay.
Remind me of that at the end.
Right. And thinking of solving problems, one of the things that we mentioned some time back is Odyssey of the Mind. And one of the exercises in Odyssey of the Mind was to find as many unusual uses as possible for a light bulb. Mm-hmm. And you had to take the light bulb, give a use, pass it on to the next person who gave a use, and so on. Now, if my memory serves me correctly, in the time limit, which was 2 minutes, the largest group came up with 63 different uses for a light bulb, none of which involved being a light. So, you can find your kids solving problems in very unusual ways because they don't get locked into functional fixedness, which is a fancy term for saying the only thing I know for a light bulb is to make light.
Make light, yeah. The interesting thing here, Ralph, was that with this spontaneous creativity, the older the kids were, the less well they did. That is, the youngest group did fairly well. It was the middle school group that did very well. But the high school group, didn't do that well at all. I think they got into functional fixedness, and we'll talk about that one today too.
Yeah, and one of the things that that kind of happens, I think, is that kids are naturally looking to become capable. That's sort of a given. You take a kid who's postnatal, and you say, well, this is just a kind of cute little lump of protoplasm, but by the time they're a toddler, they're asking why, and they want to learn, and they want to become more capable.
Right.
We send them off to school, and by the time they hit high school, how did school go today? Meh. The curiosity, which we'll talk about next time, seems to kind of evaporate.
Yeah, we got that for sure. The thing, I was mentioning the little 9-second vignette.
Yeah.
I've looked at it twice now, and it's only 9 seconds, and it's going beep, 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 and it sort of simulates what kids might be exposed to on their iPads. And in that 9 seconds, I got kind of dizzy and a little nauseous. If that had been 25 minutes, I think I'd be a basket case.
Okay. So here's my thing on that, Jim. One auto crash that happened, this is a lot of years ago now. A woman was driving across the Mackinac Bridge, and there are pillars on the Mackinac Bridge along both sides because those are crash barriers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she was driving a very small car,
A Hugo.
and she was looking at the barriers that were going by. And her eyes became so fixated that she became disoriented, and the car veered into the barrier,
Flipped over. Yeah.
and crashed into
Straits of Mackinac.
Straits of Mackinac, and the woman unfortunately did not survive. But that shows you that high energy repeated bursts of images can give you what amounts to an epileptic seizure.
Yeah. I was on the bridge the day after the accident. And so I stayed away from the right lane, and I was on the second lane in, which has that metal
Metal rumble strip kind of thing.
Yeah. And that was spooky also. Yep. So, hey, we're not going to say, totally avoid screen time, but monitor what you're doing with your kids.
Yeah.
I sat down with my kids and watched Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers, but I did not park them in front of the equivalent of Coco Melon. So,
Yeah, and today I think there was a time when you could say to your kid, "You have been very bad. Go to your room. I will not see you again until supper time." Well, A, supper time might not be an event in your family, and B,
going to your room isn't a punishment anymore.
no, because kids have 6 electronic devices in their room.
Yeah. Well, you had a whole bunch of books and magazines, so you wanted to get exiled to your room, right?
Right, I could read Field and Stream with nobody bothering me.
Okay, well, what we're doing is we're talking about things in this book that just happen to be written by me in this case. Ralph and I have the Curious Kids book that we'll bring in. We looked at 3 things last week. We looked at focus, we looked at communication, and we looked at perspective taking, right?
Okay.
Okay. So this week we're going to look at what? Look at
Well-
independent problem solving.
Right?
What else?
We're going to look at independent problem solving and self-directed learning and critical thinking.
Okay. Well, when we think about this, the book is kind of written in a developmental way because we're not going to get into critical thinking with a 5-year-old.
No.
They just don't have that. But beginning at about 7 or so, we should be able to see the beginning of critical thinking. And, critical thinking is, well, what's your definition, Ralph? You've taught critical thinking skills.
Well, critical thinking is the ability to take data or information, if you want a simpler term, from various sources and look at it and say, this is good information, this information is less credible, this information is clearly biased, and this information is absolute
Misinformation.
misinformation
Okay.
or those things that are found around a stable.
Okay. Yes. So by taking information or data from the environment and deciding, what's valid and what's useful, that's critical thinking.
Yes.
We've talked before about this. If you just get your information on the world from, Fox News, you're going to have one set of data that you're going to be processing, or Huffington Post, you're going to have another set of data. Back in the day, when you and I were young, we had what? We had PBS, was just in its formative stage. We had ABC, NBC, and
CBS.
CBS.
And we had at that time the godfather, if you will, of news, Walter Cronkite.
The most trusted man in America, right?
Yeah, and he gave you, as far as we can figure out, looking after the fact now, back in the day when he was doing news broadcasts, he gave you critical thinking on the news. He gave you an analysis that was right on point.
Okay.
Didn't have any bias one way or the other.
Okay. Now, Jacob, we're going to ask you a question now. Pop quiz. When you think of sources of news, what kinds of sources do you think are out there right now?
I mean, I'm younger generation, so I get honestly a lot of my information from TikTok or social media. That's
Yeah.
where I get actually 90% of my news, I would say.
Okay. And what's the content of news on TikTok?
It's short form, so it's very quick information, and a lot of times you can play it at 2 times speed. So I like to do that because I just want the information and get it out of there.
Okay. So,
And do you think, Jacob, that it's biased or unbiased or?
I think it can be with algorithms and stuff out there. It seems to know what information you want to hear. So I would say I hear a lot of stuff leaning one way or the other.
so what we tend to see now are people kind of looking for confirmation bias. They look for information that feeds into what they believe and reinforces that belief. Well, that's the opposite of critical thinking, right, Ralph?
It is. And the thing is that the more confirmation bias information you get, the more convinced you are that your information is good and that anybody else who says anything that disconfirms what you have in your information store is either misinformed or flat out lying.
And a few weeks ago, we talked about the Oak Island mystery or the Oak Island curse. Here's a mystery of, people have been looking for treasure on Oak Island for about 230 years, unable to find a thing. But every rock or nail, or a bit of
Wood
a metal,
of some kind
Yeah.
that doesn't usually belong there.
serves to confirm the fact that, hey, there's treasure there, whether it's the Knights Templar or,
Shakespeare's manuscripts.
Captain Kidd. Yeah. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to have children who can take a look at the pros and cons of an argument and decide, what is the most accurate presentation. So instead of just listening to, one side of a news event and saying, all Republicans are bad, all Democrats are good, or something like that,
Or vice versa.
or vice versa. We'd like to see something that's balanced. Now, you mentioned earlier on problem solving, and one example of problem solving was that light bulb. Okay,
Yeah.
so 64 uses they came up with?
Yeah,
Okay, and not one of them was to have a light.
right.
To have light. Okay. Well, I can think of a couple. You could take the top off of it and fill it full of wine and be a wine glass. Or you could break it up so it's a lot of almost like powder,
Uh-huh.
and use that to almost like sandpaper.
Right.
So those are two. Okay. Can you come up with some?
Well, yes, a darning egg where you put a sock that has a hole in it over the light bulb and you use that as a form
Okay.
so you can do your
Darn your socks.
darn your socks,
Yeah.
as opposed to damn your socks, which is a different thing altogether.
Indeed.
And the other one, and maybe this is something I shouldn't say, but one of the uses that our middle school kids came up with that kind of blew my socks off, speaking of socks, was sex toy. I didn't think middle school kids were going to do that, but somebody did.
Okay, well, got him a point, I guess, right?
Right.
Okay. It might not have been the best time to say something like that, and maybe this was not a real reflective kid. So,
Yeah.
high on problem solving, low on, self-reflection.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that you mentioned earlier, and we mentioned in the book, is that capable kids are able to learn things by themselves, self-directed learning, right?
Yeah. And there's a fancy term for that a psychologist might use, or a philosopher, that is autodactant.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a 50-cent way of saying somebody who can learn by themselves.
Okay, yeah. Now, my youngest daughter was homeschooled by Sheila and myself, and she went through elementary school very well, and then by the time she hit high school, we were not her teachers anymore. She definitely was learning, but she would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and do her studies, and so that she could get out and play with her horse by about 9 o'clock in the morning. And, we were monitoring what she was learning, and she was learning the curriculum that we set out. Well, later on, she went to university. And this one, as a matter of fact, Central Michigan University. And how did she do? Was because she was, not taught by Dr. Professor Carroll? Did she, go down the tubes? Not at all. She ended up with I think a 3.96. She knew how to learn.
Yeah. And learning how to learn is a skill that is worth developing all by itself. Now, Jacob is of a generation that had probably, starting in elementary school, certainly in high school, courses in keyboarding. Nobody calls it typing anymore, but keyboarding, and is probably about 100% faster than either you or I can keyboard.
No question about that.
But a lot of young students today who come to university with the ability to keyboard go into classrooms and they bring their laptop and they sit there, and whatever the professor says gets noted down.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that is less effective than taking what you have noted down,
And writing it up. in
writing
longhand.
it out in longhand.
Yeah.
Or if you have to, if you're not a good cursive writer, printing it in longhand.
Mm-hmm.
Because the act of working with pen or pencil embeds learning in your mind much more effectively than finger movements.
Yeah, we've looked at that one in a couple of podcasts about a year or so ago, and the data is there. Writing the stuff out, and in fact, writing it out in your own words
Yeah.
consolidates the memory trace as well.
So here's something I'm going to throw into the mix here today, Jim, and that is, okay, you are an effective keyboardist. You take the notes of what the teacher says, blah, blah, blah. Then you take it home and you write out mostly what the teacher has said. You leave out what you think are the irrelevant or side issues or whatever, but you make that into notes.
So you consolidate.
So you consolidate. Now, the next stage of this is that you take your notes and you create a compendium.
Okay.
A compendium is a 50-cent word for a notebook.
You got a lot of 50-cent words here today, Ralph.
Yeah, actually, this might be only a 25-cent word.
Okay. Notebook.
Notebook. It doesn't have to be a fancy notebook. I mean, a lot of people use leather-covered journals in there. Oh, yes, it's so good I can't write in it. But a cheap notebook
Like
where
my
you
fancy
take
covered notebook? Okay, yeah, gotcha.
you take what you have taken from the previous 3 lectures,
Mm-hmm.
and you look at your notes that you have made in longhand,
Mm-hmm.
and then you boil it down to the gist so that you go from, let's say, 2 pages a lecture, you go from 6 pages down to 1.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got all the important parts.
Yep.
Now, the thing about
Now, the
keeping
thing
it,
here, Ralph, is that, and you're going to comment on this, I'm sure, but nowadays, textbook manufacturers have done that for the student.
Right.
You've got 4 sections in a chapter, and then at the end, you've got the chapter summary. Hey, we don't have to do any work at all.
yes, we go through and we read the chapter summary, except that also falls into the somebody else did this for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like if we go back to the 60s, the Cliff Notes.
Mm-hmm.
You could read Hamlet, the Shakespearean play, in 20 minutes.
Got me through.
Yep. And did you, in fact, really understand it? No, you understood it when you watched Hamlet performed when you were 20.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that in the compendium that you've made, so you've made, 3 lectures worth boiled down to 6 pages, boiled down to 1 page. Now what you do is you keep doing that. And then at the end of the year, in your own writing, with your own analysis of what's important and why, you can then get ready for finals
Mm-hmm.
in a much more effective way. And the important point is, after you've finished the final, nobody has ever asked me about what my degrees were in.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has said, what are your competencies?
Mm-hmm.
So you take that compendium into life.
Yeah.
And you have a compendium for every subject that you've studied in the last 4 or 6 years or 10 years if you went to get a doctorate. Do you, in fact, have a lifelong learning there?
Probably so.
You have
so.
lifelong learning as long as you keep going.
As long as you keep learning.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the thing is, you keep a compendium every month.
Mm-hmm.
You
Update it.
you
Okay.
update it.
Yeah. a lot of people update their Vita every month, so this would be updating your knowledge base. So we've gone from getting in information, which the media is providing or the professors providing, and that leads to knowledge, which you boil down the information, and so now you know whatever the subject is, and hopefully with lifelong learning, we will end up with wisdom, where you can take the things from physics and the things from math and the things from philosophy, and you can begin to see how they all kind of fit together in the vast scheme of things.
Yeah.
So that your learning isn't fragmented. It becomes holistic.
Now, one of the things, Jim, that we're talking about here in raising capable kids, and I wish I had done this, but I didn't. But that is keeping a dad journal. So in your dad journal, you put down all the things that you know how to do or thoughts that you have about politics or religion or spirituality or how to live your life. And you do that with the idea that it doesn't go to your children until you have gone to the great spiritual home in the sky or down below, whichever way you lived your life. And you say, okay, here's what I learned in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And you pass that on to each of your children. And it's in your own handwriting, and it talks about your skills, your thoughts.
Well, you say you haven't done this, Ralph. You still could do it,
Yes, and I'm thinking that I really want to do that and pass it on to Shauna.
Yeah. Now, I think Shauna has kept a compendium, too. In her case, it's dad jokes.
Yes.
Yeah. We've gone about 27 minutes again, Ralph. And we haven't quite put a cap on raising capable kids. There's one thing that I want to talk about next week, besides showing that little video of boom, 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 and that is resilience. And then we'll move into curiosity, okay?
Okay.
So until next week, this is Jim
And Ralph,
saying, keep your stick on the ice
because we're all in this
together.